Bruce Springsteen is better known by his stage name, The Boss. From New Jersey, Springsteen has become a representative of the American blue-collar workers. His songs strike a chord in his fans and have allowed him to remain a favorite musician since the 1970s. Springsteen is also known for his amazing live performances that are characterized by high energy and over 3 hours long. With sales of over 64 million albums in the United States alone, Springsteen is the 15th highest-selling artist of all time in the U.S. He is also one of the world's best-selling artists, with over 120 million records sold worldwide. In addition, Springsteen has won numerous awards for his music. Join us to learn more about this talented and world-renowned musician. Born Bruce Frederick Joseph Springsteen on September 23, 1949, in Long Branch, New Jersey, Springsteen was raised in Freehold Borough. He lived on South Street and attended Freehold Borough High School. Springsteen's father was Douglas Frederick Springsteen and was Dutch and Irish. Springsteen in Dutch means jumping stone. His father worked as a bus driver among other jobs, although Springsteen says he was mostly unemployed, and his mother was the primary moneymaker in the household.
First of all, you're in Homedale years ago. Would it have killed you to call a buddy in Middletown? I was 3 miles away, at most, sitting in my house. Already a fan.
I could have used the company, let me tell you.
Would it have killed you to just reach out to a brother and say, we're having trouble with some of these tracks, come on over, we need your wisdom? Or was that just too much for you?
Like I said, I could have used the company because I was sitting there suffering by myself most nights, you know. And I'd gotten into this sort of vampire-like sleeping schedule of going to bed around 8 in the morning or 7 in the morning and sleeping till 4 and then writing all night, you know. And this went on for at least an entire winter, and until I suffered from severe light deprivation and tried to switch it around a little. But it was a long, lonely vigil. In 1977.
Somebody said all he had to wear was that white T-shirt, and I said, that's no T-shirt. Back then, those were called undershirts. Life looked rough in that house. It looked like a little bit of a prison camp. And what are your memories of the place? Just shag carpeting and bad food and
Well, it was always bad food, but the place, it was actually it was a beautiful house that I lucked into. For like, I was on 165 acres and I paid like $700 a month rent. And so I sort of lucked into this fabulous farm, you know, and it's all, I believe it's all McMansions now.
Subdivided, yeah.
But the house itself was this big, roomy sort of farmhouse, and it was big enough to set the band up entirely in the living room. And, you know, it was a frat house, you know. It was just the guys, and you know, there was serviceable furniture and boxes of cold cereal all over the kitchen and macaroni and cheese for dinner, and but it was it served its purposes, and I spent quite a bit of time. I guess I lived there for several years. And wrote some pretty good songs there. So,
Born to Run comes out, cover of Time magazine, causes guys like me to say to people, "Yes, I'm from New Jersey." Becomes a source of great pride.
Right.
And what were the stakes as you sat down to record Darkness?
Well, part of the stakes were that it also caused somebody at the IRS to say, who is this guy and why hasn't he paid any taxes yet? so that was a problem. People finally, they found out that we existed because we had all been living off the grid in New Jersey for so many years. I simply never met anyone who'd paid taxes, you know.
You never flew in airplanes, any of you.
We never flew. I don't believe anybody in the band was ever in an airplane until we had our first record deal, you know. and they flew us to Los Angeles, and we were like, you know, kids on a magic carpet. But it was a funny period of time, you know. It was because of the long stretch in between records. It was 3 years, but a lot was good about it. One, I was out of the way, which I liked. You know, I even after the success we had with Born to Run, I never stayed in the center of things. You know, we were down here, and down here in 1977 was a long ways away from New York City, and nobody bothered you. You know, just you, and you had the locals, and I pretty much went back to living the way that I lived, you know, before I made the records, and that suited me and satisfied me at the time, and I believe it was good for the music I was writing. So.
And you sat down to record Darkness, and you say in no uncertain terms to members of the band, this will prove whether or not we're worth it, we're good, we're that.
Well, I don't say that to anybody. I'm thinking that, but I'm not. I don't want to make the fellas nervous, so I'm not saying it. You know, but I'm thinking it to myself. You know, and it's like I said, we are in the show business, not the tell business. So it's all about showing people what you can do. You know, and at the time, you know, we'd kind of been written off as record company creations or one-hit wonders or flash in the pan, or and you know, it was quite a few years in between records, and so it was a moment where I felt you had to deliver something substantial, you know, and it had to be more than just a good record. You felt like it had to be definitive. We wanted to make a record that if you were interested in rock music and the stakes that were being played for in popular culture and rock music in 1977, it was a record you would have to go through. You may not like it, you may like it, you may think one thing, but it was something that would, you know, it was a marker of some sort. And so that was the kind of record I went in pursuing, and which is why, you know, 70 songs later, we were still struggling to find it. But we weren't trying to make just any record. We were trying to make a very specific and essential record, you know. And that's really what took a lot of the time.
Talk about your process. Talk about control. You say, the quote is, you were oppressive and obsessive during the recording of Darkness. What did you put your colleagues
through? I like that all the time. But you know, obsessive, that just came with my. It was sort of where your OCD comes in handy, you know, where you're a dog with a bone, you know, getting a hold of a bone. You'll just gnaw on that thing until it's right, and so that was sort of helpful. But the level of intensity and the demand that it accompanies, you know, thank God everybody was young men at the time, and because it demanded your sort of 24-hour fealty, you know, it was, and because I had no life, I didn't think you should have one either. and so it was all music, you know. I still hold a lot of that to this day, and thank God, you know, we've learned how to make records better to where we can bring the same sort of intensity in and get the job done with a little bit less craziness. But at the time, it was important, and madness is not to be underrated. You know, madness in the appropriate place and at the sort, sometimes at the service of an aesthetic ideal can push you into, can help you get to higher ground sometimes.
As an adult, as a husband and father and farm owner and veteran of carpools, when you now look back on you in those pictures, those films, what was brimming and bursting inside you, what do you think?
I usually think, like, man, I was really skinny.
Use a haircut, could use a meal.
I had a lot of hair. I had my Italian afro, and I was really skinny. So, after that, you know, I recognize myself. You know, I'm still, in a lot of ways, creatively, I'm the same creature. You know, I pursue my work with the same sort of intensity and joy. I get the same joy out of it, if not more. And so that the young man is very recognizable to me. You know, you have a much broader life and broader experiences now, which is essential to prevent what would have been, you know, oncoming insanity in a short period of time. But it's not unrecognizable. It's funny, you know. It's funny. It's fun to see the guys and at us at a particular moment when we were involved in this sort of obsessive and act of self-definition and of trying to make something that was great. You know, we just wanted to make a record that was like going to excite you and animate your life and make you and be thought-provoking and make you dream of things and make you recognize yourself and recognize the world around you and want to be a part of it and want to be engaged and active and you know, those are all things that, you know, and you know, that was, the thrill was in creating something that would do that, and it's the same thrill that I have today. You know, those are the goals. You know, I want to get as far in your soul as I can, and I want to shake you and wake you up as intensely as I can, and wake myself up in the same process. So,
percentage of your fans who approach you in public to say, "Soundtrack of my life."
You get a lot of that, you know, but
80, 90.
But you know, somebody has that saying. You know, whatever you've done, somebody has. You know, if you've made music, somebody has that saying that to them. But it's a. Yeah, I mean that was the idea. The idea was, you know, you wanted to be, you know, an integral part of people's dreams. You know, of the things that help them get through the day. So that's, I'd say, probably, maybe that's the finest compliment people give you, is that, you know, you've been a part of my life. Really, that was what we were shooting for, and so you always like to hear that. You know, you always like to hear it.
And, you know, I listened to the new Arcade Fire. There's many a tip of the hat to Bruce Springsteen and his music, and that's one of easily a dozen pieces of work on the market right now where the artists have said outwardly or through their work, this is because of, this is a tribute to, this is thanks to Bruce Springsteen, which must be its own category of thanks.
Yeah, it's nice. You know, you always want to hand it on to younger guys or whoever's coming along. You know, that's I think part of what you know, I was influenced by so many great musicians that meant such a great deal to me, and who I can never really repay. You know, music is it's so intensely personal, and it strikes you on such an emotional level, and you know that it leaves you like feeling like you owe a great debt to the people that moved you that deeply, and it's a lovely thing to owe someone. And I think that you know, when I see the guys that did that for me, and I've had the opportunity of actually meeting a lot of the fellas that, you know, the guys that did that for me, it's a wonderful feeling, you know. So it's nice to think that, you know, hey, you did something and somebody heard it and they picked up a guitar and you know, and now you go and, you know, I'll go out and see them, and you'll see a whole different generation of kids just sort of in the thrall of what was so ecstatic and transcendent for me, and I get to see my kids experience it through their own heroes, and you know, you just want to hand it on, you know, and so that's always a treat.
What about your country? You know, think of the world as it was in '77. Carter was president, installing solar panels on the White House roof. Yesterday, after Reagan took them off, President Obama announced, guess what? We're going to put solar panels on the White House roof. And we've come full circle. But, you know, the polls, our own poll, 56% of adult Americans don't think their kids are going to have it as good as they did. That's a soul-crushing stat. 70% of Americans are pessimistic about the future of the country. This is, in many ways, since we do have a soundtrack for life, this is Bruce Springsteen's America. This is your America, too, and what do you think of what's become of it?
It's very difficult right now. I think that you know, the economy has shifted, well, I guess we've sort of gone from running this American business into running this American casino. And the economy has shifted in a way that it's benefiting the very small percentage of Americans at the top, squeeze the middle, and ignores the bottom. You know, that's got to be altered. That's why there's 43 million people beneath the poverty line, and that's been something that, regardless of the past boom or bust, there's been people who've been in a recession and depression for the past 30 years since the post-industrialization of the United States, and their concerns have been you know, fundamentally ignored, and I think I
think that's an interesting thing.
This one piece will make 52 layers.
Watch on mobile devices or the big screen, all for free. No subscription required.
that issue. And it's tough. It's tough. I understand. Hey, I sympathize with President Obama. In many ways, he's in a very tough seat. The president comes in, you have 4 or 8 years to make your mark, to try to manage these huge forces that are constantly at play. You got your financial institutions, your corporations, your military. They're always president. You know, they're always in play. And it's a very, very difficult moment. And you know, I think that when the economy moved away from serving, hey, your everyday guy that's out there working at his job, your small businessman, and turned into really a gambling house, that it spelled doom. You know, it spelled doom, and I think it spelled doom for a lot of people's expectations and a lot of people's hopes to get whatever small piece of the American dream they can get. That's got to be fundamentally altered. That's got to turn around somehow, and it's a very, very difficult climate to do that in. There's the level of noise and speech coming out of, there's an enormous intimidating force. It's a very, very difficult environment for that, you know, for those changes to occur right now. You know.
Back to your music, the Notebook plays a prominent part in the Darkness documentary. It just looks like things are spilling out of your head, and that is the napkin that catches them. By the paragraph, by the page, by the idea. What is going on in your head? Have you figured that out?
No, that's why I still go to the psychiatrist once a week. It's like, I guess perhaps that was the point, you know? It was like, you know, it's you know, life's it's a mystery, and I think that part of it is you're a detective, you know, and the music was me searching for clues all the time, and you know, you're looking for clues to your past, clues to how to live in the present, a clue for some plan of the future. You're playing it by ear. It's a lifelong. You know, it's a lifelong process of detecting where your life is going. And so, for me, like I was compelled to write music and make music in search of probably a set of answers that are never actually going to. I realize they're never going to actually appear, but the work itself, you know, has delivered to me a certain level reasonable sanity and purpose that helps me get through the day. So the Notebook is sort of if you go into the Notebooks, is just careening. There's a lot of bad words, bad lyrics, bad ideas, purple prose, florid writing, and a lot of embarrassing. All the things that got thrown out are in the Notebooks. Sometimes there's something good. So the Notebooks to me are always, we part of the package we put. We recreated the Darkness Notebook, which I felt two ways about, because it's sort of people seeing all the thoughts that you that you canned, and but they are pretty good little documents of the moment I was living through and what I was trying to accomplish or what I was thinking about at the time. Hopefully, I go back. Generally, I did pretty good. I picked the best stuff, and most of the time I left out the things that were completely horrible, but I suppose not always.
How many parts romantic are you and how many parts realist? I sit in this room. Behind you is a glass box where you record your voice. And there's Max's kit, and there's the great Hammond B3 organ. And over yonder is the stand-up glockenspiel, and we're surrounded by tambourines that the big man has used and guitars that you've used. This is the stuff of Springsteen music, and you're laughing. Pull yourself together. Why? How do you see these disparate pieces, other than a part of your house?
They're my tools. They're my tools. It's like we have. That's basically it. I never. It's funny. I never collected guitars until about. I met Brendan O'Brien in the beginning of the Zeros, and he kind of got me into picking up some different guitars. But previously, I sort of played the one I had, and then whatever other ones I might need as spares. But yeah, it's just like this is my tool shed. That's what you're in, and but so you'll go over to an instrument. So oh yeah, man, I've been. Danny played on that thing back in 1975. It's still there, So I get mixed with memory, But it doesn't serve to live there too much. So I just come in here. It's like coming into my tool shed every day.
It's a better than average tool shed. Have you think you've kept the contract with Jersey?
I don't know. Did I have one?
No, yeah, you didn't sign it.
I didn't sign.
They did.
I didn't sign anything.
But you had the good sense not to be born in any other state, and you've become part of the firmament.
I'm still here, so I don't know if I planned on that. We did move to California for 4 or 5 years.
We've forgotten.
And that was pretty enjoyable. But in the end, we had a big family back here, and when we had the kids, it seemed like the right place to be. So I still enjoy it here. I still like the beach. I like the bars. I like, this is a great spot to live. Life is great here in Central Jersey, I have to say. And it's been good to me. The people here have been good to me. I pretty much get left to go my way. People don't make too big a fuss most of the time, and so we've had a life that I would say was, for my kids and was reasonably close to normal, and that's what we were in search of, except for the days when I go around looking to be treated as king. Then, but most of the time it's pretty straight up. So I don't think we're going anywhere anytime soon.
You tend to love customer contact, and whether it's a bar or a big arena, the customers, that feeling. Retail rock and roll has always been very important to you. When will we next see Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band take some of these new songs out for a spin?
I don't know. We played a lot. I think somebody told me I toured 8 out of the past 10 years. In some form or another, by myself or with the folk band I had or with the E Street Band. And I think we've been off since November, so that'd be coming up on a year in a few months. And you need some downtime, and the writing takes some time, so I'm working on a few records and some other things, and but we'll be out there probably sooner than later. I think the band it's a constant going concern now, and it's more pleasurable, and it's a wonderful thing to have in your life. I don't see any time in the future when we would. It's like it's when we wouldn't be out there playing. I think we'll have periods of downtime like we've always had in the past, but I'm looking forward to playing and continuing my adventure with my friends, and exhuming a few more of those mysteries and see where it takes us all.
I don't want to go all AARP on you, but you guys have grown old together.
You're talking to the AARP cover boy here, my man.
All right, easy.
I was on the cover.
You have grown old together. I mean, I'm not going to name any names. There are new hips, there are new knees, there's titanium members of these.
We're counting on science. We're counting on science to take us into the future, But it's a funny thing. I guess if you do it right, one of the things I'm proudest of in this new package that we put out is we went in Asbury and we played Darkness album from top to finish about a year ago, and I think if you hold it up to the tapes of the time, we play it a lot better right now. The band is really it is truly at its best, and I think if you do it right, instead of running from the years, you gather them in. And the songs gather them in, and the evening gathers them in, and something wonderful happens. Something really, really wonderful. And I think that's our MO right now. We're looking to give me those years. Gather those years in. Take all the time. We want to gather all the time we can, and it fills the music. If the music was sturdy, written well, it fills it in a way that brings extra vitality, extra meaning, extra purpose, extra life, extra import, even extra nowness to what you're putting out at night. And so, the time we got ahead, which is something where it should get better. It should get better. It's gotten better so far. I mean, the band played so good on the last tour. I always tell the young kids if they come in, I say, look, your daddy has nothing on you, and your big brother's got nothing on you. If you see the E Street Band tonight, you've seen the best E Street Band there is, and you can go home, with that in your hat, And so, just try to keep that rolling. That's what we do.
And in the old days in the Pony, you would take shouted requests from the crowd like any good, decent bar band does. And so on this tour, the Sea of Signs, you said to the crowd, bring it. We are a big, well-oiled rock and roll band, and I'm going to show you that we are agile, and we will play anything you throw up here. And you did. My God, you played songs you guys hadn't played as a group.
Yeah, it was nice. It was a moment in the night where you turned the show over to the crowd, and the band calls on its collective memory, from even things that, even over the past 35, we haven't played together, just things that we had remembered playing individually in clubs or something. So it was a nice part of the show, and it sort of let each audience put its stamp on their evening. It was and it tested our skills as our claim to greatest bar band in New Jersey, at least.
So take one last victory lap. At the beginning of the documentary, you're not scared. You're under a lot of pressure for a young man. This is a, you don't say it, but it's a make or break album. This decides what kind of artist you'll be seen as. It won't change your core, your character, but it turned out okay, didn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, you were scared. I think you were. You really didn't know what your potential was. You know, you were scared you weren't going to be good enough. You know, I think that you know, I'd received quite a bit of attention at the time, and more maybe than I ever thought I might have. You know, and I think you were nervous about just you know, just whether you'd be good enough, because we wanted very badly to be good. I think I say in the documentary, it was more than you know, rich or famous or happy. You know, we wanted to be great. You know, and that's what motivates us still on a nightly basis. We come out, hey, it's great that the big crowds are there. The money's great. You know, we're not handing any of it back. You know, at this late date. But the thing that moves a band on any given night is we just want to come out and be great. You know, we want to be great for that audience and for ourselves. You know, we've got something at stake. There's something very real at stake at night. Something we've built a long time. You know, the good name of our band, what we can do for our fans and ourselves, and that's still on any given evening when the lights go down. You know, you have an opportunity to pull magic out of the air. And I look into the faces that I do it for every night. You know, I look straight at you, and I see you looking straight back. So, you know, we want to be at our best. You know?
Springsteen played with a trio in the late 60s known as Earth. The group played clubs in New Jersey. It was during this period of time that Springsteen became known as the Boss. He took on the task of collecting the money owed to the band at the night and would then distribute it among the members. Apparently, he is not fond of the nickname, as he does not like bosses, but since it has stuck, he deals with it. In 1972, Springsteen signed a record deal with Columbia Records with the help of John Hammond, who had signed Bob Dylan a decade earlier. When he began recording, Springsteen brought many of his New Jersey colleagues into the studio with him. This formed the E Street Band in spite of the fact that it would not be called by this name for several years. Springsteen released his debut album called Greetings from Asbury Park, New Jersey in January 1973. Although sales were slow, the record established Springsteen as a critical favorite.
Stephen, when did you first meet Bruce?
Well, that goes back a long way. Around 65 or so.
You were a New Jersey boy as well, eh?
Yeah. I was born in Boston, but I grew up in New Jersey, yeah.
So how did the two of you meet?
Oh, we had local bands. You know, he was at a Freehold, which was a bit further west, and I was closer to the ocean. And there was a bit of a circuit that everybody played, you know, and you'd run into each other. And then we started running into each other in New York, which was odd at the time.
You used to come into Greenwich Village, didn't you?
Yeah, on the weekends.
What, to see musicians? Or?
Yeah, because New York was usually about a year or so ahead of New Jersey. You know. And so we'd come in and steal what we could and go back and look brilliant.
When we met, this girl introduced me to him, who was a singer in the band I was in. And actually she said, come on, he's playing down the street, we can go down here and meet him tonight. And so I went down there, a place called the Student Prince.
Is this in Asbury Park?
In Asbury Park, yeah. It's no longer there. But I opened the door, and the wind blew the door down the street. It's a fact.
He came in the club, and he just walked up to the stage, and he said, can I play? We said, sure, you know. Nobody was going to tell him no, you know. And he got up on stage and just knocked us out.
I get the thrill right now thinking about it, you know. I feel it, inside me, you know, that first night, the magic of that moment. And when I saw this guy, you know, I knew that there was something special about him. You know, I knew that he had what it takes, quote. And it was what I was looking for, you know.
I was with our old drummer, Vinny Lopez, and we were sort of the we thought we were pretty hot in those days. We'd sort of go check out all the new talent in the area. We had heard about this fellow, and we went to check him out. And we turned our chairs around and sat with our arms up there, and he blew us away. He was just he was unbelievable then, and I had never seen anything like him. I thought he was hidden away, like he was from England, or I had never heard of him, but he looked like a celebrity.
Well, I answered an ad in a New York newspaper in August of 1974. It said, "Wanted drummer." I went down and played with him, and I'll tell you, from the first beat, it was like magic. Just fell together.
He had just broken up Steel Mill, which was like a four-piece Led Zeppelin-based kind of band, and wanted to expand the band and go into a little more R&B direction. And at that point, they disbanded, and he wanted to start a new band. And I came in. I was working with Dave Sanchez in another band, and we sort of came in together, and that was the story.
On one of Bruce's tours before, I think Born to Run really broke big, at the Bottom Line in New York City, I got, for the first time, had a chance to see Bruce play. And it was his last night at a famous stand at the Bottom Line in New York City. And I was playing the next night. It was my first show as a solo artist. My band Green had broken up, so I was like petrified already. And I went to see Bruce just to kind of be inspired, which I certainly was. But it was just so overwhelming because, you know, the whole band and 2 keyboards and this little tiny club and doing this 4-hour show, and they did 2 shows. And as much as I loved it, halfway through the second show, I was so, like, you know, wrapped up in how great it was and so worried about my show and kind of inspired and overwhelmed at the same time. I left and went back to my hotel and just worked out all night, did sit-ups and all the kinds of exercise just to kind of wind down enough to, like, be grounded enough to do my show the following night. I was really knocked out.
I had seen him at Max's Kansas City here in New York, where he was playing for a few nights, and it so happened that the people I was working with at that time, we were also playing the same club. We were alternating sets. So I watched him for 3 nights and got real excited about him. And of course I noticed he had a great piano player at the time, it was Davey. And I said, boy, this is a band I would just love to play with. And it so happened that about 8 months later, I'd been living up in Boston. I moved back to New York City, and I picked up the Village Voice one day and read the music ads. And there was an ad for Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, piano player and drummer wanted. So I reached for the phone, made the call, and I went down and auditioned.
First time I saw Bruce, he was opening up for Jethro Tull, Monmouth College, before he had a record deal. But I'd always heard of him because when
Sorry, did you go to see Jethro Tull, or did you go to see Bruce Springsteen?
He doesn't know this. I went to see him. I went to see Jethro Tull because I liked him at the time. But I also went to see Bruce because I was singing in that area, you know, in different bands. And I wanted to get in a good rock band, and I knew he had the best rock band.
Yeah, so they were the kind of ace team, were they, in the area?
Oh, yeah, always. Always. Even back where, when I'd be in bands and the guitar players would always, he was known as a real fast guitar player. And all the guitar players would try to emulate everything he did, just like, oh, Springsteen plays so fast. But he always had a great reputation in the best band.
Born to Run is not only considered to be one of the best rock and roll albums of all time, but Springsteen's finest work. In the week of October 27, 1975, he appeared on the covers of Time and Newsweek. There was a huge wave of publicity that ensued from his exposure in the magazines and the album. Born in the USA is probably Springsteen's most popular album. It sold 15 million copies in the US alone and 30 million worldwide. Born in the USA became one of the best-selling albums of all time and had 7 top 10 singles. During the tour for this album, Springsteen would meet actress Julianne Phillips, who he would later marry in 1985.
I guess the way I see it is the way it is in the songs. I try to make the songs real visual. My songs are basically about people. I think I know more about what makes a good song. Mainly, I make the records so that I can do the show, you know. I miss performing with the band. I never felt the necessity to have a record out every year. I'll write a lot of songs before I'll release a record. I like to tour, and I always have. When I was a kid, I used to cry to get in the car. I guess basically I feel, well, where there's truth, there's always hope. And in the end, I was going to look back and it was all going to be really funny, you know? When I was a kid, I found something I liked to do. Mine's a noisy satisfaction. I had a wild family. I remember when I seen the Beatles, my father hated it. It was great. It's the art of self-creation. That's the rock and roll message, you know, if there is one. Tear down the walls a little bit. My education was those records. I think you can change people's lives with it. I always, you know, it happened to me. I grew up in a little town where I wasn't interested in what they were teaching in school, you know. None of my friends, they were all in the same boat as I was, you know. And so were my folks, you know. There was nothing coming down, you know, nothing getting in there. There wasn't a house where there was books or there was like there was no real kind of cultural thing happening. Like for me, my mother and father for the first, you know, I mean, until I was 25 or something, they were like furniture. They came with the house, you know. They were like the couch, and I never thought of my mother as, well, she's a woman, she's a girl, she's got her own dreams, her own desires, and my dad, well, he's just this guy that's a little older than me, you know. I remember when I seen the Beatles, my father hated it. It was great, you know. He was like, boy, we used to fight. I used to want to watch, I think Bonanza or something was on the same time as Ed Sullivan on Sunday night. We used to battle over that TV, you know, life or death. And it was frightening. And I think it was something that, you know, it just said, you know, there's more than this, you know, there's more than this. I think one of the things about rock and roll is it's the art of self-creation, you know, and a lot of times you want to erase too much of your past, you know, too much of, you know, like usually that moment of explosion when bang you run into whatever it was that made you pick up the guitar, you know, in the moment you hold that thing and you look in the mirror, you know, it's you got to be wanting to get away from something pretty hard, you know, I think for that to happen. When I was young, you know, I wanted to play, I wanted to perform, I wanted to travel, and I wanted to feel as free as I could. I guess I can, you know, I consider myself certainly lucky that when I was a kid, I found something I liked to do. You know, something that gave me some sense of personal satisfaction. And, I mean, I see so many people. I have so many friends of mine who they still don't know. You know, they don't know exactly what they want to do. You know, but it's kind of only a piece of it. You know, it's I mean, sometimes I'll be laying in bed and I'll be thinking that it's amazing. I can't believe it. You know, when I was 14 or 15, I thought about doing this, and somehow I did it. You know, somehow I got there. You know, and all the things that had to go right, and just, you know, a certain amount of luck. We worked real hard. You know, you know, since we started. But you never, I don't know. I guess that's a part of it that I feel a certain satisfaction about. But there's a lot of other people in the boat. You know, you're never in the boat by yourself. You know, what I do is fun and it's brought me a lot of satisfaction. But there's there's a lot of other people. They just go about their lives in different ways, and you know, they don't get interviewed or they don't get a big fuss made over them. But I don't think that what I do is just noisier, you know. I never felt the necessity to have a record out every year or every 6 months, or you know, I didn't think that was what it was about exactly, you know. I guess the bad thing about it is that you feel like you're like feel like a friend that goes away and doesn't write, like I say, doesn't write back. And I can remember when I was like 15 or 16, like I was kind of waiting for that next release of the Rolling Stones or so. But mainly, I guess I just felt there's so many records come out, and that unless I have something that I feel is worth saying, that it's not, it's generally. I don't want to have not just to have something on the shelves or to just have something in the store. That's not why I kind of started to do it in the first place. I'll write a lot of songs before I'll release a record, But it's something that I actually want to. It's one of the main things I want to change about the way that we've kind of operated. I'd like to get more records out, and I'd like to get more different kind of records out. I try to make the songs real visual, like movies, or real cinematic. The Nebraska songs were like that. Some of my best songs were like that. Some people thought that Nebraska, either hopeless or just about despair. I guess my feeling about it was that when I wrote it, I felt that it was true. I felt it really. It was the only record I think I ever did where after it was done, I really didn't care what people thought about it or said about it or anything, and I just felt that it was right. It rang true. And I guess basically I feel, well, where there's truth, there's always hope, So that's kind of my outlook these days, I guess. A lot of times I feel just lucky. You're just kind of lucky that, you think of something to write about. Really, like the Nebraska stuff which was stuff that had a lot of detail to it. But it's tricky because the detail alone doesn't just work. It's something you have to have something. You have to have a real emotional kind of structure to hang it on. But I don't. That record is kind of a mystery. It just kind of. I wrote it in about 2 months, and it just kind of came out of the blue. Yeah, most if it's a good record, it should be. If you knew how you did it, it's probably not that good. It's like most of the best stuff you do, you don't really remember exactly how you did it, or it just kind of pops in your mind, comes out of your.
Do you think you've gotten better at developing characters? If you just look at yourself as a writer as opposed to a song
I think
writer.
Your craft gets better, and I gotten better at doing that. I know more about it. I think I know more about what makes a good song, so I know if I'm writing one or if I'm not.
You see, because in the beginning, there was a place called the Garden of Eden. There was a man, there was a woman, there was an apple, there was temptation, there was sin. And parked curbside, there was a pink cat.
My songs are basically about people, I guess the Cars came in because they're always about people in transition, people going from someplace, going to someplace they've left and they haven't arrived anywhere. And, I guess that's, it was funny because I just remembered the other day that when I was a kid, I used to cry to get in the car. I don't know why. I think it started back then, my mother always tells me how. I think I heard somewhere that if it was thunder and lightning, the safest place was in an automobile.
Rubber wheels.
Right, because if the car gets struck, it goes to the wheels and you're safe or something. I don't know.
Reading somewhere that your dad used to throw everybody in the car and just.
He was a terrible, like a dictator about that Sunday drive. It's like the only place we used to go would we get in the car, and he'd never stop. And he was always like, we're going to stop the next place now. Right? I got to go to the bathroom, or I got hungry. And then we'd see it coming, and we'd all get like, here it comes, here it comes. And then he'd drive by like he was real. He was funny. He was funny. finally, like, at the end of the day, we'd stop at some little motel, and we used to go to Bear Mountain. That's where he used to take us, you know, on the weekends. But I guess I got some of it from him, too.
There's something else that's cropping up a lot these days. I hear it in Dancing in the Dark. You're talking about the passage of time. Boy, those years, they're going by. I wondered, when you were 18, you thought, gosh, I'm getting old.
Oh, gee. Yeah, I did.
Did you?
Yeah, because I thought I was almost 20. And, like, oh, that was it. Not going to be a teenager anymore. I remember when I turned 20, it was like, it's disappointing, you know? But, and I turned 30 when I was about 27, you know? It was I started early. I remember thinking, yeah, well, I'm almost 30 now, you know? But I think, I haven't really thought about it that much anymore. You know, it's kind of, I'm, you know, kind of enjoying it, I guess.
It seems like you're having fun. You make it sort of a joke about it.
Oh, you know, it's like, it's right now, you know, I got, you know, the band's great. Everybody's feeling great. I feel, you know, like the best I ever felt on stage, you know, and, you know, there's just no, I don't think that's as big a deal as it once was, if it ever was that big a deal. It's usually just what you're doing, what you got inside you, you know, in the end, you know. I guess I kind of wanted to sing about it in the songs just because it was kind of happening, you know. And I was always kind of concerned with singing about somebody that was, well, just my age, you know. I wanted to, like, kind of stay current with myself, you know. And, you know, I said, well, all right, when I'm 40, I can sing a song and laugh, you know, or something. So I started in Rosalita. You know, it's funny, I was looking back then already. I was only 24 then, you know.
As the years progress and you look back on your library of songs, are there songs that grow up with you or that change or mature?
Well, most of them. The funny thing is most of the songs hang in there pretty good, you know. I still feel like a part of all of them, you know. Like tonight we did Spirit in the Night, you know. I haven't done that thing in I don't know how long, you know. And that was fun. You know, I always go back and there's always some lines in it that I look back, and especially on my first record where I was kind of writing anything that came into my mind. That was my style, you know. It was I would write on the bus and I would write on the subway and I would just look out the window, and it was a real kind of stream of consciousness. And the main thing was it all had to rhyme, like blinded by the light, you know, is like, I was trying to think of a bunch of different words that rhymed, you know, and I always find like lines in those songs that I still feel, yeah, I still feel like that. That one breathes a lot, that opens up and lets like the past 10 years in a real good way. That's still one of the most emotional songs for me when we play it at night, you know. It's like, it's still just that big roar. Like to me, like when we sing Born to Run Now, I hear Nebraska in it, and I hear Born in the USA in it, and all that stuff was in those songs. You know, it just wasn't, you know, at a different time you focus on a different, you know, a different aspect of what you do, I guess. But that one, plus that's one that seems to mean the most to the people, you know, and that makes those songs more powerful, you know. It's like people take them and they make them their own. The only thing that really feels like I'm doing what I should be doing is usually like when I play with a band. It's great. I miss just being with those guys like that on stage, because when we're off, we don't see each other a whole lot. We see each other a little bit. That's where the main basis of all our communication, of our friendship, is around playing in the band together.
Stephen is no longer with the band. What happened there?
You know, he had all these songs that were great songs. I thought his record was, the record that he made, The Voice of America, was one of the best records I ever heard. Yeah. And he just was at that place where it was like, it was time, you know, I think for him to do, you know, just have his own band, you know. And we've been friends since we were real young, 15, 16, you know. And I met him at the Whole Blue Club in Middletown. And we just kind of hit it off. We used to go to New York, and we used to go up to the Cafe Wa in Greenwich Village on the weekends, and you know, they had those matinee shows. We just did all that stuff together, you know. Then we'd come home and you know, try to get the sounds the guys would get on our guitars. We'd both go down in the basement and you know, turn, you know, how did he do that? He'd turn the amp up as loud as we could. He was always a lot of laughs, you know. We'd always get together and go to the movies, and, you know, we just got along real good. And, you know, but I'm glad he's doing what he's doing, because I think he's got something real important to say. I think he's saying it, you know, just real tremendously. I've known Nils for actually quite a while. I met him about 10 years ago. You know, when we knew that Steven wasn't going to be doing the tour, he was just kind of somebody, like, was one of the first people I thought about, you know. And we didn't audition anybody or anything, you know. He just kind of came up, and, you know, he stayed at my house, and we just talked. And his feeling about music and rock and roll is like, I think, our feeling, the rest of the bands, you know. He was a guy that I knew I was going to get the commitment out of. And he don't look at it like a job or you know, it's a dedication for him. And he just came up and he just kind of stood over there, and it felt good, you know. You know, but then we got Patty, you know, and she joined the band only a couple days before we left to go on the road. And I met Patty in Stone Pony in Asbury Park. And she just came out to where we were rehearsing, and she sang with the band, and it was a big relief, because, wow, somebody's going to hit that note every night, and it's going to be in key, you know. And it's nice, you know. It's been really nice. It's great. I like having her there too, you know. It's nice having the woman there, and it changes the feeling a little bit, and it's been a real good thing. What I want to get to where I can actually, her and Nils, use them more than even. We're just kind of starting, you know. It's like, first night it really felt like a different band. It felt really different, you know. It was funny, you know. Then but it feels really, right now, feels real, just real natural, you know.
Let's go!
Mainly, I make the records so that I can do the show, you know. It's the thing I always meant the most to me ever since the first time I got up at the Elks Club and sang Twist and Shout. You know, my education was those records, man. That night, that was it. Taught me the most important thing, you know, that just there's more to life than what you see around you, you know. And that was something that they couldn't teach me in school. You know, I couldn't learn it in the house. Or you couldn't learn it from people you were hanging with out on the street or anything. You know, just it was the most important lesson of my life, you know. And I guess at night, you know, that's the only thing we try to say, you know, or try to do. It's really the only message, really, is you know, don't sell yourself short.
One of the other things that happens in the show, towards the end, you let out a call to let freedom ring.
I guess for me, that was, you know, in the end, you know, if I had to say, well, what did Elvis Presley say to me, or what did I feel from his music? You know, that was it, you know, that was basically, I think that's the rock and roll message, you know, if there is one, you know. That's just what it's always said at its best, you know. I think that, Elvis said that, I think that's what Prince says, you know. That just seemed to be what I've always felt from it, when, you know, to just to, you know, get down, tear down the walls a little bit, you know, look outside and see what's going on around you, you know, what's happening with your friends or your family, and just making a little bit more room for everybody, just a little bit, you know, just a little breathing room, you know. Maybe you ain't gonna change the world, or you can change something. I think you can change people's lives with it. I always, you know, it happened to me, you know.
Springsteen has also received numerous other accolades and recognition for his work and influence. He continues to perform in various charities for the local community, such as the one for victims of Hurricane Sandy. In spite of his long career, Springsteen's music continues to be influential and well received. As he continues to grow personally and musically, it will be interesting to see these changes reflected in his lyrics and musical style.